Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Job, the 9th chapter. Then Job answered and said, I know it is so of a truth, but how should man be just with God? So I know what you're saying, right? NKJV, truly I know it is so, but how can a man be righteous before God? And he's basically going into like, it's like it's an unfair advantage, right? Like you as a man, there's no way you can justify yourself before God. If he will contend with him, he cannot answer him one of 1,000. So even if you were to try and, go at it with the Lord, of 1,000 questions, you couldn't even answer one. He is wise in heart and mighty in strength. Who hath hardened himself against him and hath prospered? Right? So ain't nobody, nobody can stand against the Lord and succeed. Which removeth the mountains, and they know not, which overturneth them in his anger. All right, let me read that here. NLT says, without warning, he moves the mountains, overturning them in his anger. NIV, he moves mountains without their knowing it and overturns them in his anger. How are you going to survive or win against somebody like that? The solution is you don't even try to fight somebody like that. Verse 6, which shaketh the earth out of her place, and the pillars thereof tremble, meaning the foundations of the earth shake, they tremble. Which commandeth the sun, and it riseth not, and sealeth up the stars. So if he gave the command, the sun wouldn't rise, and the stars would shine no more. Which alone spreadeth out the heavens, and treadeth upon the waves of the sea. Which maketh Arcturus, Orion, and Pleiades, and the chambers of the south. And these are constellations, okay, in the heavens. And the chambers of the south are, when you go into that, it goes into like basically the things that are in the skies, right? And that's because the chambers are like a holding, right? A dwelling place of sorts. So the dwelling place of the stars, the constellations, all that. He basically, I guess I can't hide that, but he creates all that, right? In the NIV, it says he is the maker of the bear, which is another name for the Arcturus, and Orion and Pleiades, and the constellations of the south, which doeth great things past finding out, right? Nobody can understand or uncover the great things that the Lord has done. It's beyond your understanding. Yea, and wonders without number. You can't put a number on the wonders that the Lord has done, or that he doeth. Lo, he goeth by me, and I see him not. He passeth on, but I perceive him not. Behold, he taketh away. Who can hinder him? Who will say unto him, what doest thou? So if the Lord was to take away, right, whether it's the life or something precious to you, nobody can hinder him. Nobody can stop him, right? Who's going to tell the Lord, hey, what you think you're doing over there? If God will not withdraw his anger, the proud helpers do stoop under him. And when you actually go into this word here, there's a bit of ambiguity around it with the helpers or Salakia, proud, because the word there is Rahab. And you'll see here, one is pride, like in the actual sense of pride. And then the other here is a mythical sea monster over here. All right. So I found that, I think it was it the NIV that made the most sense? Or no, not the NIV. Let me see here. The NKJV. That's what it was. God will not withdraw his anger. The allies of the proud lie prostrate beneath him, right? They don't stand, like they don't, you can't stand against the Lord, right? When you're prostrate, you're down, you're bowed, okay, underneath or before someone. How much less shall I answer him and choose out my words to reason with him? So if he does all these things, this is how mighty he is. What chance do I stand to even, put forth words before him, to even try to bring up a case? Whom, though I were righteous, yet would I not answer, but I would make supplication to my judge. And here what Job is saying is, even if I was righteous, I wouldn't be able to to answer. Okay. NLT says, even if I were righteous, I would have no defense. I could only plead for mercy. If I had called and he had answered me, yet would I not believe that he had hearkened unto my voice. NKJV, NLT, I'll read the NKJV first. If I called and he answered me, I would not believe that he was listening to my voice. NLT, even if I summoned him and he responded, I am not sure he would listen to me. NIV, even if I summoned him and he responded, I do not believe he would give me a hearing. For he breaketh me with a tempest and multiplieth my wounds without cause. See, so he's saying, like, not only am I weak before the Lord, but he's like, he's hitting me with all these, these calamities. Even if I was to ask for a hearing or a case, I don't think he's going to want to hear it. He will not suffer me to take my breath. He won't even give me a minute to catch my breath, but filleth me with bitterness. If I speak of strength, lo, he is strong. And if of judgment, who shall set a time to plead? Right? If I wanted to have a case, if I wanted to have present my situations here, who's going to be the one to set up a hearing? If I justify myself, mine own mouth shall condemn me. If I say I am perfect, it shall also prove me perverse. So if he was to, Job is basically saying, if I was to proclaim myself to be, just and righteous and try to justify myself, even my own mouth would testify against me, against the Lord, if I was to try and proclaim myself just before the Lord. Though I were perfect, yet would I not know my soul. I would despise my life. NKJV, I am blameless, yet I do not know myself. I despise my life. NLT, I am innocent, but it makes no difference to me. I despise my life. Because he's saying, regardless, I'm still suffering, right? Nothing is changing. There is one thing, therefore I said it. He destroyeth the perfect and the wicked. So now, as Job is saying, he's like, that's why he said, it makes no difference to him, because now he feels like, destruction of the Lord can come both upon the perfect, those that are doing right, and the wicked. And he's saying that because that's what he's experienced. Remember, he was called perfect and upright, and yet he is suffering a form of destruction right through the things he's going through. Same as somebody who is wicked would go through. That's what's making him say that. If the scourge slay suddenly, he will laugh at the trial of the innocent. Okay. Now, in verse 23, Job, once again, is speaking from the bitterness of his soul, right? He's not saying that, oh, the Most High is wicked to where, if somebody that was innocent, some scourge or something bad suddenly happened to them, the Lord is going to sit there and laugh at them, or whatever it is they're going through. But he's more so saying it in the sense of, laughing as though not to step in, right? Like if you're laughing at someone, you're not, inclined to necessarily step in and intervene or help them out in this case, and also because technically speaking, nobody would be able to justify their innocence before the Lord, right? So he could, if he wanted to, he could laugh at that trial that you're going through, because it's not like you can, necessarily say, oh, Lord, you can't do this to me, I'm innocent. Okay. But once again, he's saying this from the bitterness of his soul, because this is how he is feeling, that he is experiencing, right? Because that scourge suddenly fell upon Job, and he feels like the Lord is just basically ignoring his cries, right? So not necessarily charging the Lord with like cruelty of just blatantly laughing at you suffering. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? Now, in context of what Job is saying here, right? I'm going to pull up the NLT. It says, the whole earth is in the hands of the wicked, and God blinds the eyes of the judges. If he's not the one who does it, who is he? So Job is basically saying here, you have, when the earth is in the hand of wicked ones, right? You have the eyes, or the face of the judges are like blinded, right? They're covered, from preventing them from executing righteous judgment. And if it's not the Most High who's doing this, then who is doing it, and where is he? Now, we often use this, which is still applicable here, right? In terms of Esau Edom, right? Which is the other layer of Job 9:24, which the wicked here, all right, would be Esau Edom, which they are described as such, I believe, in the book of Malachi. All right. And in our time now, the earth is given into their hand, okay, meaning their power, their control. Okay. And in that context, the he here would be Esau Edom, okay, covering the faces of the judges thereof. When you look at what they actually did when they came up into power, all right, they whitewashed and painted in the minds and physically on these statues, but in the minds of people, they overlaid a different covering, right, on who the actual true judges of the earth are, being the Most High. If you type in God, you're probably going to see an image of some Edomite painting, okay, of some Edomite looking guy with white hair. You'd be lucky if you see him with clothes on, because a lot of their paintings were always nude. Same with the angels, all right, and the Israelites. So they covered the faces of the true judges of the earth. And as it says, if not, where and who is he? Right? So who would be the actual culprit if not them? It wouldn't be the Moabites, because they didn't paint them looking like Moabites. They painted them in their own likeness. Okay. So this is continuing in verse 25. It says, now my days are swifter than a post. A post is like one that delivers messages. And they're they're very fast, because they have to get messages from one point to another. They flee away, they see no good. So he's saying his days just fly by, right? Just like that. They just zoom by, and it's just bitterness, right? No joy, no good, no relief. They are passed away as swift ships, as the eagle that hasteth to the prey. If I say I will forget my complaint, I will leave off my heaviness and comfort myself. I am afraid of all my sorrows. I know that thou wilt not hold me innocent. See, so basically, if he was to just forget all this, right, and just drop his, as he says, his complaint and leave off from his sorrow, he would still be afraid for all the things that he has had to suffer, because he feels here, right, that the Lord is not gonna, as it says, hold him innocent, which means that it could happen to him again. If I be wicked, why then labor I in vain? If I wash myself with snow water and make my hands never so clean, which is just another way of saying to make his hands clean. When you go into that word clean, it goes, one of the definitions there is lye, which is like was used as like soap to like cleanse your hand. And Job is saying, what's the point, right? If I'm wicked, what's the point in laboring? What's the point in living? All right. Because even if I, as it says, make myself clean or present myself clean, verse 31, yet shalt thou plunge me in the ditch, and mine own clothes shall abhor me. So even if I was to try and present myself as clean, you would find a way to show that I'm not, right? To show that I'm actually wicked, or I'm dirty. Okay. And mine own, to the point where even my own clothes shall abhor me. That's Job saying that's what it's like if you try to justify yourself before the Lord. For he is not as man, or he is not a man as I am, that I should answer him, and we should come together in judgment. Neither, so it's not like the Most High is another man that Job can just go and sit down with and talk to him and have a case against. And he's saying here, neither is there any daysman betwixt us. That is to say, there is no mediator between us that might lay his hand upon both of us, right? That can sort of be the intercessor of our case. Ain't no such thing. Not for Job. At least as he's saying here. In the NKJV, it says, nor is there any mediator between us who may lay his hand on us both. And that is like to judge the matter between both of us. Let him take his rod away from me, and let not his fear terrify me. It says here, NLT, the mediator could make God stop beating me. That's what he means by his rod, his like stick, of like correction, right, or punishment. And I would no longer live in terror of his punishment. So if he could, if I had a mediator that could, prevent the Lord from continually hitting me with these calamities, which he likens onto that rod, then I could speak without fear, right? Then I wouldn't be so afraid to present my case. Verse 35, then would I speak and not fear him, but it is not so with me. That's not the case. If that was the case, then I could speak without fear, but now I can't because I know the situation that I'm in. And that brings us to the end of the book of Job, the 9th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Rechak Wadash. Until next time, Shalom.